What's going on, college football fans? Welcome back to the First and Long College Football Show. We got a big game breakdown for you today. The Miami Hurricanes are going on the road to Doak Campbell Stadium to face off with the Florida State Seminoles. It's a top 25 ACC matchup. It's a top 10 ACC matchup according to the AP ranking. Is that right? Number 8? Are they really number 8 still in the AP? That's that's interesting. Um, I didn't think that they were. Maybe that's a typo on there. But anyway, um, 4.5 point spread over under set at 54.5 on this one. Um,
That's supposed to be 18.
that's supposed to be 18. I
Makes
figured
more
that was a
sense.
typo.
Used to be 8.
Used to be 8, and they slid a couple spots after the loss against Tony Elliott and the Virginia Cavaliers this past week. It was a super entertaining game, a lot of fun on this past Friday night. So, of course, Florida State with an extra day of rest than normal after what would be an emotional loss, a field storming, a field stomping, as some of the players got
A
trampled.
trampling.
Yeah, a field trampling, if you will. That was just like flat out dangerous. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's probably a discussion for another show, I guess. Um, Look, this one, as a lot of these college football games, one of the big matchups in this one is the quarterbacks, Mason. I mean, you've got a couple of transfer quarterbacks, high profile guys. Um, Carson Beck was considered last year to be a lot of people's Heisman favorites. Things did not pan out at Georgia, due to lots of different circumstances. And he ends up at Miami, and he's done a really, really, really nice job for the Hurricanes so far this year. And you got Tommy Castellanos on the other side, and he's done a nice job in a different way. Two totally different styles of quarterbacks here, but both have been they've worked out, they've panned out as far as you got what you were expecting out of both of them. Um, Look, man, I mean this game is going to come down to the quarterbacks, of course, but I think more so it's going to come down to the lines of scrimmage, man. Um, this is some really good lines of scrimmage, and particularly Miami's offensive line against Florida State's defensive line is what I'm really, really interested to see, because I consider Miami to have the best offensive line in the country. Certainly one of the best. It's arguable if they are the best. I mean, as you know, we won't know probably until farther in the season. I guess we won't never indefinitely know, for sure. But they look the part, man. They're the big uglies up front are moving people around. It's the personality of Mario Cristobal, an ex offensive lineman and just an offensive line heavy thinking head coach, right? And that's been his identity everywhere he's gone, and Miami has kind of morphed into that. So I'm interested to see, the guys like Bain and Mesidor for Florida State on that defensive line. How do they match up with these guys? I think it's going to be a pretty good litmus test for what this team actually is. Um, Last week against Virginia, I saw a lot of missed tackles, and was it Harvey? I forget the guy's name for Virginia. I just learned it last week. So
Oh yeah, RJ Harvey.
RJ Harvey. I mean, look, by the end of that game, dude, like nobody wanted to tackle him for this Florida State defense. And that was a little bit concerning, because here we are in this matchup, and you've got that offensive line that is absolutely studly. I've already spoke on that. And a guy named Mark Fletcher in the backfield that is an absolute punisher. So I'm interested to see, like, how does Florida State rebound from what happened last week, and how do they deal with this group? Because last week RJ Harvey, I mean, he took a physical toll on this defense and was just absolutely seeking out contact, putting it on people, and by the end of the game, Florida State didn't look like they wanted none of it. So those are the kind of matchups that I'm looking at in this one. What are your thoughts going into this one this weekend? I think Miami's got an advantage on the lines of scrimmage, and I think you're going to be able to see that this weekend. But Doak Campbell's going to be rocking. We'll see what happens. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. This is a line of scrimmage game. From what I've seen so far, Miami is the better team, but this game is being played on the road for Miami. This is an FSU team that's pissed about the loss to Virginia. I mean, they could have easily snuck out a win right there, and didn't, and it is what it is. You got a loss right there, but Florida State was feeling themselves, headed into that game, and was kind of. I mean, it's the classic look ahead spot, right? Going up against Virginia. Turns out Virginia's pretty good, and they can score with probably just about anybody in the country. Florida State's defense looked absolutely porous in that game. And now, after they gave up so many yards and points and whatnot, they're 97th in the country in yards allowed as a defense. Going up against an offense in Miami that has been really good at times, but we've also seen them sputter at times. So to me, this game is going to come down to turnovers. Um, when you look at Carson Beck and his history at Georgia, um, really with Miami, a couple weeks ago, and I forget who they were facing. Um, Actually, it was against Florida. Uh, you know, Carson Beck completed 56% of his passes and turned the ball over one time. He actually turned it over twice against USF, and USF just wasn't a strong enough team to take advantage of it. But this Florida State offense, if he gives up a pick at home for Florida State, I mean, they're going to be able to take advantage of it. Florida State ranks as the number one most productive offense in the country. They are averaging 600 yards of total offense per game. Just insane stats. Averaging 336 yards on the ground. Through the air, they're sixth in the country at 263 yards per game. So, this is a classic good on good matchup here when you're talking about Florida State's offense versus Miami's defense. Um, Obviously, the highlight of the defense, I think, is Ruben Bain and what he's been able to do this year for Miami. He's already through 4 games this year. Pretty much matched his totals from last year, which he played in 9 games. He has 22 tackles so far this year, 4 TFLs, 2 sacks. Last year through 9 games, he had 23 tackles, 6 TFLs, and 3.5 sacks. So, this guy's playing absolutely out of his mind, and he's going to be a problem, I think, for Florida State and this offensive line that has played pretty well. They're allowing 1.2 sacks per game, which is good for 43rd in the country. What does that matchup look like? I mean, it'll be interesting to see, like you said, along the lines of scrimmage, how this goes, and then for Miami's offense going up against this Florida State defense, again, looked absolutely porous last week. Are they able to drive the football? I really like the over in this game, Mark. We got this at what, 52.5, I believe it is. 54.5, excuse me. I think this game's played in the 30s. I really do. I know Miami's got a decent defense, but this offense for Florida State is legit. I know they've had some easier opponents, which is why they're ranked number one in the country when it comes to total offense. But it's not nothing, right? It looks like it's legit. Tommy Castellanos looks like an absolute stud and hasn't had one of those dips in his performance yet. Even last week, you can't blame the offense for losing to Virginia. That was all defense.
Mhm.
Um, So, do we see him have one of those games that he notoriously had at Boston College, where we saw Heisman like performances from him, and then we'd see like some scratching your head, what the hell are you doing, kid, type performances. Are we due for that, or has he matured to limit those types of games here? I think it's really going to come down to lines of scrimmage and quarterback play. If Carson Beck gives up a pick in a timely, uh, you know, or in a costly situation and time, I think that could be the deciding factor. And you know, you give up two picks, it's probably done. To be honest, because that's exactly what Florida State wants with a defense that is struggling. If you turn the ball over, that's better than a stop, right? In a lot of ways. So, really exciting matchup to watch. I think that it's kind of gut check time for Florida State having that loss, having that one loss already on the season. You don't want to take another conference loss because then you're out of the ACC championship. In my opinion, I think that there are teams that are going to end up with one conference loss. I think Miami is one of those who who could either go undefeated or end up with only one conference loss. Of course, Georgia Tech is rolling. So Florida State, they really can't afford to lose in this situation if they want to make the ACC championship game. Um, really exciting game. I'll go ahead and give you my prediction, Mark, and then I'll let you get into yours. But I think that Florida State's going to get it done here at home. I believe at this point in the season, Miami's the better team, but turnovers are going to play a factor in this game. I'm just banking on the fact that Florida State is going to be able to rattle Carson Beck just enough that he makes a couple of mistakes and turns the football over. And they might find one on the ground as well. So really exciting. I'm going to be glued to the TV for this one. Give me Florida State. I also like the over in this situation.
Hmm. Liking the over. Yeah, I think Miami is gonna. I think they're really gonna take a page out of Virginia's book. And look, there was a drive in that Virginia Florida State game that just is really stuck in my craw. Chandler Morris gets hurt, hurts his hand on, hits his hand on his own offensive lineman's helmet, and pretty common injury for a quarterback, but it can be extremely painful. It can make it very difficult to grip the ball. So it must have been pretty bad. And Chandler Morris, that was the last time he threw on the drive. Everybody in the stadium knew what was going on. They ran the ball 8 times in a row. Florida State couldn't do a damn thing to stop it. And I just can't quit replaying that in my head. And look, this is college football. Teams are not the same from week to week. I mean, they're just not. These are college kids. They're inconsistent. Um, and so with that being said, everything has to be taken with a grain of salt. But um, I just can't get over that. And as as physical as this offensive line is for Miami, I just think they're going to be able to grind. I think they're going to be able to grind it out, get a lot of first downs. I think that may keep the score a little bit in check, but um, I am interested to see who can hit some explosives in this game. Tommy Castellanos. You say whatever you want to say about the Florida State offense or whatever. Tommy Castellanos is one of those guys. You're right. He can just take over. If it's one of those days, he can just take over. And this one's at home. Maybe they're feeding off the energy from the home crowd. So I don't think I want to bet on this one. Just to be honest with you, if I'm really, there's other games to put your money on this week. I think this is one you definitely want to watch, but I don't think you need to add any money to it to make it interesting because it's a rivalry game, man. I mean, this is a
Yep.
rivalry game from way back. It's in conference and in state here, and a lot of times, even whenever it's like the margins of talent and team success are shrunk whenever you get into these rivalry games, and it you just throw the records out the window, as they say. Um, you know, but not to say that one of these teams has a bad record, obviously, but um, so I get both sides of it, but I'm going to take Miami. I'm going to take Miami to win this thing. And we had the Miami schedule pulled up here just a few minutes ago. This is like their last test, really, to be honest with you. I mean, this is the last call for somebody to beat Miami in the regular season. I think they don't play Georgia Tech in the regular season. I can pull that schedule back up here real quick, and we can kind of take a look at it. But I mean, gosh, folks, I mean,
Yeah, I would
there's just
say
not.
at SMU might be the next potential letdown spot.
Yeah,
Um, that's pretty much it. I mean, at Virginia Tech, they're just fired their head coach. You got to go to Pitt. Maybe we wait and see what Pitt looks like at that point. It's they got away with one with the schedule makers this year.
yeah, yeah. I mean, look, and that's how it goes sometimes. I mean, there's been national championship teams that have had some of the hardest schedules, of anybody. And then there's been some national championship teams that you could point to the schedule and say, look, they had a nice little landing pad there to get the season started and get into the postseason. And Miami's really set up. But I mean, you can't bank on Florida being as bad as what they are. You
Mhm.
can't bank on Notre Dame after having just went to the national championship. Not having a defense this year. So not it's not. It could have been a good schedule. It's just not. It just
Yeah,
ended up not being one. So I think this is pretty much last call, dude. If somebody's going to beat them, and I think it is going to be a good game. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But give me Miami to win. Give me Florida State to cover. I think Miami wins this thing by a field goal late, and I think it's going to keep everybody entertained here in Week 6. Y'all let us know in the comment section how do y'all think this game's going? Give us a score prediction. Who are you rooting for in this one, and why? And can anybody, if Florida State can't beat them, who can beat Miami this season out of the ACC? Uh, we know when we get in the playoffs, anybody can beat anyone, but who in the ACC is going to be able to hang with Miami this season? We'd love to hear from y'all on that. Um, we're going to be back on tomorrow morning, and we're going to try to be on every morning to break down. So you guys come and join us here on the First and Long College Football Show. Hit that subscribe, and we will see y'all in the section, and we'll see y'all again. Release it later on in the day. So let us know how we messed that up. We'd love to hear from you. Y'all have a good day.